Max Verstappen takes pole in Suzuka, McLaren line up right behind him, Daniel and Yuki secure new contracts, and who found Saturday in Suzuka challenging? Let's get into the latest in the F1 world from qualifying day in Japan. Max Verstappen stormed to his 9th pole position of the season in Suzuka after setting the pace all throughout the weekend. Max's Q3 lap was more than half a second faster than the time set by Oscar Piastri's McLaren in P2, and he was pushing to the limit for the whole lap. Max said that he'd been expecting the weekend to be better for Red Bull after a good feeling on the simulator, but that you never know how good it will be until you get there. Clearly his feeling was right, allowing him to take a fantastic pole position in front of Honda's home crowd. In contrast, Max's teammate Sergio Perez had a tougher day and could only secure 5th on the grid for tomorrow's Grand Prix with a lap time that was almost a second slower than Max's. Sergio has struggled all weekend and said it felt like he was always 2 steps behind and couldn't get the entry stability he was looking to get over a single lap. Sunday's Grand Prix will no doubt be a race of tyre degradation through the field, and Sergio will be hoping he can use strategy to maximise his performance and points, particularly as Red Bull can clinch the Constructors' title tomorrow. McLaren have had a mega day in Suzuka with Oscar Piastri in P2 and Lando Norris in P3. This weekend is Oscar's first time driving at Suzuka International Circuit, but it clearly hasn't taken long for him to get up to speed in his upgraded McLaren, and he finished the day just over half a second off the pole time set by Max Verstappen. Piastri was as modest as ever in reflecting on his performance, saying he could have done a better job but it was a good lap, and that the whole weekend for McLaren has been really good, and so overall he's very happy. Oscar's mum Nicole joked on Twitter that she needed a cheap flight to Japan for tomorrow's Grand Prix, and Zach Brown has offered to buy her a ticket, so keep an eye out tomorrow to see whether she's made it. Lando Norris will line up behind his teammate on the grid in what he said was a very good day for both him and the team on what can be a tricky circuit to put everything together. Both the drivers are keen to make Max's day difficult tomorrow and try and clinch the win from him at a circuit that's full of McLaren history over the years. Do you think they can do it? While McLaren and Red Bull put on amazing performances, further down the grid it was a tougher day for Mercedes, who ended the day with Lewis Hamilton in 7th and George Russell in 8th. The team had made some changes to the car on Lewis's side of the garage overnight, which he felt made a big difference to the feel of the car, so he was much happier with it. Despite this, unfortunately the 7-time world champion struggled for overall speed and couldn't close down the gap to the frontrunners through the session. Lewis attributed their lack of speed to being a long way away on rear downforce, which affected their performance in the long, sweeping, fast curves of Sector 1. He also admitted that the gap to Max's Red Bull concerns him heading into next year, as he feels it will be a challenge for them to close it down even with a new car. It wasn't a much different story on George's side of the garage, who said it's been a difficult weekend so far, but that the team knew that Suzuka wouldn't be their best circuit coming into the weekend. George remains optimistic that the team can maximise their chances for the Grand Prix, but Lewis doesn't agree, saying that he thinks Mercedes will struggle like everybody else. Despite looking promising in pace all through practice, the Ferraris will line up P4 and P6 on the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix, which, while not a bad performance, will feel worse after their spectacular weekend in Singapore. Carlos Sainz believes the deficit is due to the high-speed nature of Suzuka, which is opposite to the lower-speed Singapore, and he said he took a different setup heading into qualifying that he believes has compromised his quali preparation. Though they were only 0.3 apart in lap times, Charles felt much more positively about his performance than Carlos, saying he felt it was a really good lap and not much left in it to improve beyond 4th. He's expecting to be challenged by the McLarens and by Sergio in the race, and feels it will be difficult to overtake given their race pace. AlphaTauri announced today that they have renewed Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda's contracts to 2024, filling yet another 2 spots on the grid for next year. While Liam Lawson has been doing an amazing job in filling in for Daniel, the team decided to stick with Daniel's race-winning experience and Yuki's experience and links with Honda for the next season, where they will undergo a significant rebrand. Daniel said he was stoked to be continuing with the team, and Yuki said he felt very happy and thankful, but both acknowledged that there is still work to be done to improve their performance. Liam will remain at the team as their and Red Bull's reserve driver, unless of course he's scooped up by another team. But do you think AlphaTauri made the right decision in signing Daniel and Yuki? And finally, a note on a tricky day for Logan Sargeant as pressure begins to mount regarding his future in the sport. Logan suffered a pretty big crash out of the final corner in Suzuka on his first lap attempt of Q1, putting him out of qualifying and into P20 on the grid. Williams team principal James Vowles took to social media to explain that Logan was a bit bruised but physically fit to race tomorrow, and that he has the right headspace to do a good job come the Grand Prix. The team faced a lot of work overnight to get the car repaired and ready to go, and may face a pit lane start should this work require them to break Parc Ferme. You're all caught up with the latest in the F1 world. What did you make of these stories from qualifying day in Japan? Let us know in the comments, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to Apex for the latest in the F1 world.